wasn't heroin material. I wasn't capable of advancing on an enemy or even bringing peace between two sides. In fact, I had helped break that peace. That broken peace which then became a raging war such as America had never seen. Here's my hand in the events of history. This is my story. I was born on June 14, 1811, to a large family in Litchfield, Connecticut, with a stern minister for a father. It was he who was the pivot our family revolved about. His fiery preaching, standards, and ideas filled us all with a passion for our beliefs. As much of an inspiration as my father was, it was he who made me feel small and useless. He didn't want daughters. He wanted sons who could become ministers and bring the nation to its knees before God. Girls seemed irrelevant to this great quest of his. My father never stopped wishing that I had been born a boy. In fact, the greatest compliment he ever gave me was, "If you were a boy, you would have been the best of the lot." These were the circumstances I had grown up under. And since my mother had died when I was 5, didn't have many female role models I could look up to. It was a harsh upbringing indeed. But it was what pushed me in the end to accomplish something nobody else could. Although I was a girl, I had had an impressive education and later went on to be a school teacher, which my family considered the only thing a girl was fit to do. I graduated from Hartford College with high marks and no future to look forward to. All around me, my brothers were getting ready for their grand careers, and my sisters had their own projects that they could be involved in. Then there was me, unwanted and unneeded by everyone. A depression came over me, and I even considered the prospect of dying young before I was enslaved to a housewife's life. I just wanted to do something that I liked, that I enjoyed. Writing. So I began my first book titled Primary Geography for Children. This was a textbook that I knew other school teachers like me would find very helpful. My book was a huge success, and I earned more money from its publication than from a year of teaching. Greatly encouraged, I continued writing and eventually joined a literary club to have my work critiqued on by other writers. I had this great gift with words, and before long, a few short stories of mine made their way onto a national magazine. I had finally found something that I was good at and something that I enjoyed. I had finally found my place in the world. In 1836, I married a man named Calvin, who was one of the leading Bible scholars of America. Before I knew what was happening, I had 4 children to take care of and a household to run. I was not at all adept at housekeeping. And the constant amount of work from both home and the magazines was driving me insane. Everything just went downhill from there. My husband's job wasn't paying well, I had no time to write, my brother committed suicide, and I was overcome by a bout of cholera. I survived the illness, but was left very frail and weak. After insisting to my family that I needed a break, I left home to recuperate for a year, and by the time I returned, I was well and completely restored. And a good thing that is too, because what I did next would need all the strength I had. I had long been aware of the troubles in America. How could we boast about being a free country when 1/3 of our southern population were slaves? My family had always been against the horrific practice of slavery, but it took another wave of injustice to propel me into a state of urgency. The Fugitive Slave Law was a new decree that stated that anyone, even those in the free northern states, would be captured, fined, and jailed for assisting runaways. It also stated that if there was any confusion regarding a person's freedom, that the case must be taken to a federal commissioner. If the commissioner decided that the suspect was indeed a runaway, then the commissioner would be awarded $10. However, if the commissioner decided that the man was a free man, then he would only be awarded $5. The bigotry of this ridiculous law sickened me. Commissioners were being bribed to capture and return people who might already be free. It was an appalling act on the government's part, and I refused to just watch them carry this law out. So I became immersed in the anti-slavery movement, and I spent every day trying to make a difference. The old feeling of uselessness came over me again. Male abolitionists were hardly taken seriously, much less the woman. Frustrated and churning with anger, I was constantly writing to friends and family, ranting to them about the evil in the world. One response from my sister-in-law spurred me into action. She reminded me of my talent in writing and urged me to write something to display the evil in slavery. And that is exactly what I did. Finding my writing as an outlet for my anger, I wrote and wrote and wrote, describing vividly one scene that I had in my head. A death scene. In a small, lonely cabin, a master beats his slave remorselessly over and over again. Lashing his whip, he drains the old man of the little life still left in him. With a last agonizing cry, the slave begs his master to repent before it's too late. But it already was too late. My novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, was a national sensation. Almost anyone who read my book would simply weep for the pain that Uncle Tom endured at the end of his life. My book lit a fire in the hearts of the North, and before long, the resounding roar of the abolitionists could be heard for miles and miles around. It could even be heard across an ocean. The Prime Minister of England had also read my book, and he agreed with our cause. In fact, after the Civil War had started, the Prime Minister had refused to give the South any of the supplies that they might need for battle. It was even rumored that when I met President Abraham Lincoln, he had said to me, "So this is the little lady that started this great war." After these 85 years of my life, I have learned that the pen is mightier than the sword. For although a war can shake a nation, a book can change the world. Who am I?